All right, so now we're going to go back and start adding in EQ, equalization. So we'll start with just the kick drum. And I'll open up our REQ4, which is an EQ plugin. And this little gray thing here means that's off. But you can see that I've already worked on this beforehand. This is just one approach to EQ. Some people use subtractive EQ where you're pulling everything down. I typically use additive EQ where you're boosting things. But I'm going to turn the EQ on. And you can hear it kind of increases the bass end, which is living right around here. But there's also kind of this slap that you want for the kick. I don't know if you can hear the difference in that or not. I'm boosting this further than I would to make the point. A lot of these sounds live in a couple of different places, like 2 or 3 places. Typically the kick drum will live down here around 90, and that's where you get the low end of it. But if you just use that, you hear how muddy that is? There's also a second part of the kick drum that lives somewhere between 3,000 sometimes and 7,000, and you can see all this stuff here is the energy of the sound. So you can see like there's nothing up here to boost, but there's some up here to boost. So if we turn this way up, you hear how the kick drum has more of that slap now. That sounds kind of weird alone, but that's important because when you add all the other instruments back in, that kick still has to slap through the mix so you can hear it kind of holding down the foundation of everything. And so I would typically from there add in the bass, because the bass and the kick drum work like a single unit. So we'll find the EQ for the bass, which is off right now. I'm going to turn it on here. And I was apparently decently happy with this bass out of the box. So bass is the same thing. You're boosting the low end of it. And typically for like kick and bass, because they both occupy the low end of the spectrum, you might boost the kick between like 50 and 80. And you could also boost the bass between 50 and 80, but I would try to have them boosted in slightly different spots. Like if you're boosting one in 50, boost the other one around 80 or something, because if they're both boosted in the same place, they're going to mask each other out. And then bass, there's also kind of an attack part of the bass that's higher up. Typically, and I think like the low mid range, you can kind of see where the energy of the bass is all around here. Like if you try and boost it over here, it doesn't matter because there's nothing there to boost. But if you boost it maybe here around, you see the frequency is here, it's around 630 or so, typically maybe 700. This varies wildly per bass, but you might get the bass to cut through a little bit more, and that means that you'll hear it better in the big picture context. So now that we've EQ'd just those two, let me go back and add in the whole band and see if you think you can hear those a little bit better. So I think adding EQ helps it to sound kind of cleaned up a little bit.